Okay, this next optic on our list is the best Tasco I could find. It was a 6 to 24 by 44 target varmint scope. This one has the 1-inch tube, and as we talked about before, 30 millimeters is going to give you a better range of adjustment. So 1-inch tube is not very desirable. This is a 6 to 24 power, so it's very high magnification variable. It's in the second focal plane, and it's just a crosshair reticle on this one. So and it's got the 1/8 minute of angle for the elevation knobs. This is really more of a varmint scope and target scope, as it says in the name here. It's a target varmint scope. This feature set is not really going to equip us to engage targets at unknown ranges under multiple environments. You're just not going to have that capability with this type scope. You're going to need a reticle. Like a mil scale reticle or some kind of ranging reticle that you're going to use for your hold off. Like we talked about the firing solutions before, they're going to get kind of dynamic here. So this is going to be okay scope for varmint shooting, but it's not for these applications. And we can look at the quality. Tasco, it passes. This is one of the higher end Tascos, but it's not really fair, I suppose, to even put this in this lineup that we're going through. We're talking about a serious long range or extreme range scopes, and this Tasco is really kind of a different animal. This is designed for varmint shooting, and it'll work good for those applications, but for our applications, this just is not going to work. So that basically fails the criteria list. Let's look at the Unertl. This is the United States Marine Corps' optic for a long time. The MST-100 is the particular model we're looking at, and actually it is a 1-inch tube on the Unertl. The Unertl is kind of a unique optic. It's got a lot of interesting features, so let's kind of run through them real quick. You got the straight 10 power, as we've seen in the M3A that the Army guys like to use, and the straight 10 power is a really good feature, in my opinion. It's the mil-dot reticle. Now, the Marine mil-dot is different than the other mil-dots. The Marines have their own mil-dot system, and the dots are not so much round-shaped. They're more of a football shape. They're kind of oblong. And the Marines who get used to that, they really say that they do like that. But the guys argue back and forth. But just be advised, the mil dots are different style, and the Marine reticle looks different. Focal plane is not an issue because we got a straight power optic. Now, this is equipped with for elevation turrets with the ballistic drop compensating turret. But it's not like the normal ones. We kind of ruled out BDC turrets in our feature selection as being inappropriate for our purposes. However, the Unertl has two separate kind of dial rings on the elevation turret. One of them is the ballistic drop compensator, and that's demarked in like different ranges. So you dial up to like let's say 700 meters. So you put it on that setting. But then you have another separate ring on the elevation where you can micro adjust for climatic changes in atmospheric conditions, like if you got changes in pressure or your air density is different, it'll give you up to a couple minutes of angle in either direction, up or down, where you can kind of adjust for. So that's actually a really good design for the Marine Corps, and it makes it kind of user-friendly. You can quickly index for your range, and then you can just kind of, even in your head, you can do it. You can say, okay, the humidity, or more so like the atmospheric density is a little thicker, so we need to account for that, so you just crank it over another couple minutes. And the windage knobs on the Unertl is half minute of angle marks. And like we said before, that's going to be better than your real super, super fine, like 1/8 minute of angle ones. But for tactical applications, half minutes are acceptable. And this was designed for the M40 rifle. So this is only going out 800 meters. We're not talking extreme range. We're just talking normal long-range stuff on this particular optic, what it's designed for. Maybe 1,000, maybe 1,100 if you're really, really pushing it in the 7.62 millimeter. But for the M40 rifle, if you got a 308 or something, this is a pretty good optic. The thing is, you're going to have a real hard time finding them. So let's go over to this next category here. We're going to look at the quality of the Unertl. The turret tracking is spot on. It passed all the mil-spec tests. The Marine Corps really battle tested this thing before they chose it. So your turret tracking is spot on. Your internal build quality is very, very well done. The optical clarity is top notch. These are almost a tier 1 optic here. They're very, very well put together. Overall ruggedness, these things are extremely tough. They're actually built on a steel tube. Most of your optics you're going to find are made out of aluminum as far as the tube and stuff goes, but this one's actually made out of steel, so that it's a really strong. It's heavy too. You can tell just by feeling it. They're pretty heavy, and they're a really, really toughly made scope in every respect. So the overall score on the quality is definitely an A for these, and the feature score is a B. It's a little goofy of a setup, like we said, and your windage knobs and even your elevation settings, your adjustments are in minutes instead of matching the reticle in mils. So that's a little bit goofy, so I didn't give it an A on the feature score, but it's very intuitive in its design, so it still works pretty well. Now, these things, if you can find one, you're going to pay like a huge pile of money. It's going to be over $4,000. Some guys pay $5,000 for one of these things. So, you know, for the money, it's not going to be better than like some of the US Optics or the Schmidt & Bender. It's not going to be better than those, but it is going to be a lot more expensive. I think one of the reasons people give so much money is because, you know, it's the Marine Corps sniper scope, so that has a lot of you know, prestige to the optic right there just by itself. So that's why a lot of guys really find these desirable. They think it'd be kind of cool if they build up their M40 to actually have a Unertl on there. And it is one of the only optics that does have that turret setup like I described. And I believe that actually US Optics is one of the companies, or a proprietary company, that actually started making these. They made a few runs of these as well. So they kind of redid them. Because they make custom-made scopes, US Optics does. So you can probably get one of these MST-100s from US Optics if you shop around. Okay, speaking of that, let's go to the US Optics. I only have one listed here. I'll probably just talk about the other one, even though it's not on the paper. But I'm looking at the US Optics ST10. And this is a straight 10 by 44 millimeter scope. It's a 30 millimeter tube. Now, one thing about US Optics you'll find is that you can specify whatever you want. You can get a 30 millimeter tube, 34 millimeter, 35, 40 millimeter tube. So these are used to just be made to custom order, but they do kind of make big runs of them as well, and then they sell them to different places to distribute them. But this particular one, like usually you'll find them in a 30 millimeter if it's already made, if you don't custom order it. And the Magnification, like we said, is a 10 power. We got this one here that I'm showing. You can get them in any kind of reticle you want. I'd recommend one of the mil radian-based reticles like the mil gap or the mil dot or whatever. Focal plane is not an issue. It's a straight power. And then you definitely want to make sure you get your elevation and windage knobs in the same unit of measurement that your reticle is going to be in. So if you got a milliradian reticle, you want milliradian turrets. If you got minutes of angle on your reticle, then you want minutes of angle on your turrets. Feature score on these is really good. You can get them equipped with what's called an Eric knob, and we've been showing this quite a bit. We talked about it in our features video, so that's a really good setup. Go back to the features and check that out if you missed it. But the ST10 is really, really good setup features-wise. And if we look at the quality, this is a tier 1 scope. This is top in the world. So the tracking is 100% reliable. It's excellent. The internal build quality is top of the line. There's nothing really better. Optical clarity is really, really, really fantastic. It's almost as good as the Schmidt & Bender. It will have a little bit more optical clarity than probably a Night Force. And guys can argue about that, but particularly in the ST10, that's going to have really excellent optical clarity. The overall ruggedness is definitely, this is probably the most rugged scope possible that you could get. This is really, really built, very, very heavy duty. So on your ruggedness, if you're looking for something you can slam around, the ST10 is by far the toughest scope you can get. It even beats the Schmidt & Bender and the Night Force. General score is just an A. This is a great choice. And in its price range, because these things are affordable. You can get them from $1,000 to $1,600 normally, depending on which model and where you find it and whatever. But if that's your price range, if you got $2,000, I mean, that or less. If you got 1,500 or something, I mean, definitely I would strongly urge you to take a good serious look at one of these things and see if you could even have one custom ordered to your liking. Because if you don't see one with the features you like, you can't have them custom order one for you, and they'll just build it to your specs. So the ST10 is a beast. That if I only could have one optic that I would use for the rest of my life on just any rifle, any random rifle, I would actually probably choose the US Optics ST10, and that's going to give you a capability out to 1,400 meters, no problem. The optical clarity is so good. You're going to be surprised how clearly you can see your target just on the 10 power. And even on some of the cheap scopes, I've been very effective out to 1375 with the straight 10 like SWFA scope. So that you don't need anything more than 10 power, like we discussed in our optical parameters videos before, unless you're going extreme range, like really, really far, then maybe, it'll be advantageous to have a little more power. But we talked about that at great length already. I don't want to be too redundant here. The other US optics that I don't have listed here would be the SN3, and that is the variable power US optics. And there's a lot of different configurations, but typically they'll be in a 30 or 35 millimeter tube. A lot of them are like 3 to 17 power, or there's a lot of different magnification settings. They're pretty much always in the first focal plane, and you can custom order any reticle you want. And all the turrets, you can choose from a whole different line of turrets on these US optics. They have lots of different styles. So if you don't like the Eric knob, you can get it with whatever knob you want, and they have a lot of different options. So it's definitely worth looking at. The SN3s are priced around the same range as Night Force, in the $2,000 range, maybe $2,500 for some of the higher end models, up to $3,000 if you're really looking for a fancy one. And these are going to be right up there with your Schmidt & Bender PM2. This is a world-class optic. You can't really get better. The Schmidt & Bender will, like I said before, will have a tiny bit better lens quality possibly, but I mean, it's so good on both of them that it's like really hard to tell. And the ruggedness on the SN3 is going to be a little more rugged than the PM2. Although even there, I mean, they're both really, really heavy-duty scopes. And this is going to be a Tier 1 scope, so that's highly recommendable. The next one I have up here is the Vortex. Now, this is also kind of a new rage, kind of a newer company that came out, and I don't have they have a lot of different models, but I tried to pick the best one that would be the one that I would use if I had to get one. And the Vortex here that I have listed is the 5 to 20 by 50 Razor HD, and this is in the 35 millimeter tube. This particular model, the 35 millimeter tube, that's a nice feature. That's a really good feature. The Magnification 5 to 20, that's plenty for anything. You can go past 2,000 meters, no problem. 5 to 25 is going to give you everything you ever needed. Reticle is a milliradian-based reticle, and they do have a lot of different reticle choices as well. And first focal plane, that's refreshing to see new scope companies catching on to that. It's like, okay, now you're finally getting your design characteristics to where they're actually useful features. Elevation and windage also, you got them in the milliradians, which match the reticle. And you can get them in minutes of angle as well, too, if you get one of the minute of angle reticles. So there's a lot of different options on these. And actually, when I was reading through the 2012 catalog on these Vortex tactical scopes, particularly in the Razor HDs, they seem to have really excellent features. I really like whoever's on their design team again is doing an excellent job. So I think they have some of the best scope features that I've seen in some of these, different optics. Now let's look at the quality. The Vortex quality is still kind of a question mark. I cannot really say one way or the other yet. I do intend to actually try to get out there and use some of these. I got a couple buddies who just got some, so we're going to try them out and really see if they work as good as everyone says they do. I've actually had kind of a bad first experience with the Vortex, although mine did have a sticker on the bottom that said made in China. So if you get one of the made in China versions, that could maybe be the problem there. But I was having serious problems. I had to send it back 3 times. Another thing, I was visiting with a a respected shooter the other day again, and he brought up a point that I never kind of thought of. But a lot of guys talk about how good the warranties are on some of these scopes. Like on the Vortex, they say, well, man, these have like an excellent warranty. All you have to do is bring it back to the store and we'll just replace it. No problems. No one ever has any problems replacing these. But if you think about it, is that really a good sign that everyone seems to know how good the warranty is? That might, it seems to me like they might be possibly using the warranties a lot. Do they get taken back to the store a lot to where people are very familiar with the warranty, on this brand, or what's the deal there? So sometimes I get curious, and someone brought it up last night when I was visiting, and I thought, never thought about it like that. But yeah, they do have a good warranty, because I had to use the warranty 2 or 3 times on the one scope I bought. It just kept breaking on me. Now, I think that in all fairness, I was looking at the design on the erector assembly on this Razor HD series, and this is their kind of expensive one. And this, I wasn't testing this one, but this looks like it's put together very smartly. Like the erector assembly, there's a ring on there, and they use like steel on the contact points with the turrets. So that, and they use really, they have a good design with the springs and the tension, and it looks like their tracking should be very good on this particular model. So, and it's kind of not fair too, like, some of these optics manufacturers like have such a varying spectrum of different price range optics that they offer, right? Like Vortex, they offer stuff from like $150 up to $2,000 something. So it's quite possible their cheap stuff is just junk, and their expensive stuff can be really good. The same is true with like Burris and Tasco. I mean, if you get one of their cheap models, it's going to be kind of a junker, But if you do spend a little more money on those same 2 brand names, you can get up into some pretty high-end optics that are actually very competitive with the other brand names that are a lot more reputable. So I don't know if I'm giving it the fair ringer here yet. I mean, but from what I've seen in the design on this Razor, it looks like it's very, very smartly made. The tracking is supposed to be very good from the reviews. They have shining reviews. Internal build quality on the Razor HDs is supposed to be really, really well put together. Optical clarity is actually, I did get to test this out. I've looked at them. I never actually shot a lot with these Vortex besides on this particular model. But the optical clarity is pretty good on these. I think these HD model, we talked about that a couple videos ago. That is the high-density glass, talking about apochromatically corrected glass. So all 3 of your different color frequencies are coming into focus in the exact same plane. So you're going to have a very crisp image, and you're not going to have a lot of optical aberration in these lenses. So that's a desirable feature right there. You're going to have like really good glass quality. Overall ruggedness, they seem like they're constructed pretty heavy duty on this particular model. So it should be good. So theoretically speaking, this particular model, the Razor HD Vortex, should be a pretty good optic. I give it a pretty good grade here, theoretically speaking. Now, the thing with the hard thing to really quantify here is like quality control, because a lot of these, you can have the assembly line pumping out extremely well-made optics. It's like that with a car too. I mean, you can get a certain, like even like a Honda or a Toyota or something like that has just really good reliability ratings, and they're generally put together very well. You can always have a screw up on the assembly line that does not get corrected, and then you can have a real lemon. And that lemon can give the whole series a bad name, you know what I'm saying? So the same is true with anything, particularly rifle scopes. I would imagine that a couple bad lemons in there, just due to lack of attentive quality control, could really give these things a bad name. And I've heard some stories about some of these that were also having problems, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's representative of the vast majority of them, because the design seems to be a real good design. So assuming they put everything together properly over there and wherever they build these things, and that's kind of I was trying to find out exactly where these are built, because they advertise like they're American again. We talked about this earlier, but I think that some of their, a lot of their stuff is made in China, And I know that the one I was testing was made in China. But some of the higher-end ones I think are made in the Philippines as far as the parts. And I do believe that they do assemble some of them maybe in the United States, but I'm not sure what that means because the Philippines are a United States territory. So sometimes when these guys say made in the USA, they're talking about the Philippines. So I'm not sure if they're doing it over here stateside for real or what. And that can actually have a huge bearing on quality control because some of the workmanship in those third world countries is still kind of a question mark. I mean, the quality control just isn't there like it is maybe here in the United States when we're talking about optics. So I can't really give you a full review of the Vortex until I actually go out there and play with it myself. And I hate to just convey to you what I've heard other people say and what I've read because as many of you probably already know, what you read in a gun magazine or in a review where there's people being paid to review things, there's a lot of dishonesty that happens there sometimes, or people are very, very biased. So I'm trying to give you just a dead honest scientific review, withhold all my personal feelings. But I have to be honest, I would like to endorse this because I really like their design, and I really want to say that they're good. But I had a real bad at first experience. And I got a question mark as far as their quality control. But we'll find out sooner, hopefully, than later. And I'll do a full-bore review on my buddy has a PST, or whatever that model is called. And we're gonna test that out and see how well it works. I'm hopeful. I think it should be a pretty good scope, you know. But like we said before, you can always have a lemon.